believe I did.
He sure did. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 119 of Hyperspace Hype. We are back.
Star Wars.
Yes, Star Wars. But you know, it
What?
sucks, man. It sucks.
Oh, yeah. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, this is a somber episode, talking about the passing of the late, great, fantastic, unforgettable James Earl Jones, passing away at 93 years old. I hope I get to
Too
90 as well.
young.
93 years too young.
Still too young.
Yeah. Man, what a force. And we just wanted to, do this live stream here talking about James Earl Jones, his influence on Star Wars, our favorite Vader moments, and, his impact on us and how we came into Star Wars. So yeah, this was, this was a shocking, but not so shocking. A lot of our, I think I told you this off air or whatever. Well, a lot of our favorite heroes and people we looked up to growing up are now reaching that age. It's just a very sad fact about life, man. And of course, that unfortunately had to happen to James Earl Jones, who not only had a huge impact on me, in the Star Wars hyperspace hype realm, but my other, like, if my dad was always like, "Hey, Evan, what's your top 5 movies of all time?" Star Wars, I would always say like Empire Strikes Back. Now I was like Last Jedi. You never know. But I would always say Empire. But my number 2, my favorite animated movie of all time, for a long time at least, was Lion King. There's been some films that have surpassed it recently, but like Lion King for me was just a very big game-changing movie for me growing up, and I always knew him as Mufasa before Vader. I think because obviously when I was young, I watched Lion King growing up as a kid, and then I watched Star Wars when I was like 8 or 7 or 9, whatever it was. But Lion King obviously came first for me, so I knew him as Mufasa. Then I knew him as Vader, and then as a Star Wars fan, you read up on interviews, see him in other projects. But in general, those were the 2 main things for me. And he's had a big impact playing one of my favorite heroes in Mufasa and one of my favorite villains ever in Darth Vader.
Yeah, man. His range, man. Honestly, like, is quite vast. And he's such a kind person. Such a just a powerhouse, but so kind, so gentle. Yeah, he had many roles. Of course we know the big ones there, but like I know him like I think like face wise, I know him primarily from The Sandlot. He's great in that.
Fantastic in The Sandlot. I agree. We could have watched that on stream.
We do, absolutely. And I was like, it always slips my mind that he's also in Coming to America.
Oh yeah, that's my not my dad, but my uncle's favorite movie is Coming to America. I have an uncle who really really loves that movie. I never saw Coming to America 2.
I haven't seen that either.
But the first one is a classic. I love that movie. So yeah, he's great in that as well.
Good old McDonald's. Big Nick. That's still so funny. Yeah, man. It is surreal. I just even like a couple months back, they re-released The Lion King, and I got to experience that on the big screen. And
yeah, it's crazy how I never saw Lion King on the big screen. I always wanted to do that. Yeah.
I mean, me either. It was the first time. And goddamn, man, his voice hits different in surround sound. It really does.
Yeah, everything the light touches. I've always wanted to hear that on the big
He's
screen.
doing the monologue, and I'm just like fucking just edge of my seat, hanging on every syllable.
Yeah, it's great. He's phenomenal. And yeah, man. Lion King had such a big impact on me. Like tears every single time the stampede happened. It's still one of the most jaw-dropping animated sequences of all time. It is flat out gorgeous. but it leads to like a very, very sad death. But yeah, I think, you know, in terms of Star Wars, I forget what my first Star Wars movie is. I always forget it, but like at least, you know, obviously in A New Hope. I think it was A New Hope. I think my dad was smart enough to show me A New Hope first. But either way, hearing his voice in A New Hope was always very funny to me because like take her away. Like it always sounds very funny at first, and then you like, you know, Empire or Return of the Jedi, you get used to the iconic Vader voice. And the beauty and the brilliance of James Earl Jones that he didn't just stick to the movies. He did the voice work in Rebels, which was some of my favorite, you know, we're going to get to it, but some of my favorite Vader moments come from his performance in Rebels as a voice actor. Because holy shit, he was great.
That is a really surreal thing to think, not just, you know, we love animation, we support it. It's just as valid as any other medium. But like it really is like a sense of magic that like the like probably biggest culmination of the Anakin Ahsoka journey, and James is delivering these lines.
It's so good. It's genius. And I remember when that was coming out, I was like, did they really get James to do this? Like, is this some kind of trick or whatever? Because, you know, people might not know or whatever. They didn't use his voice in Kenobi 2 years ago. That was some like AI, you know, tech. Not like kind of not the like bad AI. It was just like
it was authorized. It was just
exactly. It was authorized, and they just molded it. You know, the brilliance of ILM to create an authentic Vader voice. And yeah, like you said, it is authorized. So that was a question that I guess we can get over with right now. Is that like, will Lucasfilm continue to use his voice for years to come, even though it is authorized? And I think even though it is authorized, I don't think there's any necessary Star Wars stories in the near future that would even grant us to seeing Vader, at least in voiced by James Earl Jones. You know what I mean? Like, I think we have the Rey movie, 2 Mando movies, all that kind of stuff. I just don't think it's a possibility.
They had a really good guy doing it for a lot of like animations and video games for a time. Like the
Great point.
Era.
Great point. Like with the Force Unleashed shit, right?
Yeah.
I forget who did the voice there, but yeah, playing those games, I didn't even, you know, I noticed a slight difference, but like it sounded great to me.
It sounded pretty on brand.
Exactly. So that was fine for me. So yeah, that's very interesting. But yeah, again, it's like I think because people are like Lucasfilm would be so terrible to use his voice now after this passing, and like especially in the era of AI and like the disgusting nature of certain aspects of AI. People are just kind of worried and losing faith in Lucasfilm. But again, he gave his authorization for his voice. And secondly, I don't think they'll need to. I think, you know, I think the era of Vader is close to over, at least again in the live action format. In animation, anything's possible, obviously, but especially in animation, it's even less necessary. Again, I'm so glad he came back in Rebels. Forever grateful for that. But moving forward, if there is some kind of pre A New Hope or original trilogy timeline animated cartoon, doubt it. Then, like you said, they could use somebody else in animation who could be equally as great as Vader in animation. But yeah, in general, for me, my first big impact for James Earl Jones again comes from A New Hope, which is like one of my favorite Star Wars movies, top 5 for sure. And seeing his impact in that movie, or seeing his like gravitas in that movie, just from the voice lines. Again, he never came on set for a lot of the time. You know, notoriously, he never met Carrie Fisher. You know, while filming. You know, because you know it wasn't really necessary. He was doing his voice overs in the studio. But his voice became just so iconic and became such a memorable figure in the years to come after that movie. But yeah, I'll never forget hearing his voice for the first time. That was as soon as he died, like the first GIF I found was just like I said earlier, take her away, or like his discussion with Padme. Like it immediately locks you into this world of Star Wars. For a lot of people, James Earl Jones introduces them to Star Wars. I just think that's a fantastic notion.
Yeah, I think that is like a big like testament as well. Is like whenever I think about I think one of the biggest things that pops in my brain when I think about Revenge of the Sith is like the end scene with Vader.
Oh,
But
good point.
but when I do think of that scene, I'm not thinking about like the embodiment of Vader and like what's he doing on screen. I'm thinking of like what he says and like James's delivery of those lines. That's what I always think about. That's what always sticks with me. It's not just, I mean, great. I love the Frankenstein imagery off the slab and everything. It's gorgeous work. But yeah, I'm always just thinking, and not the fucking no, which I don't mind. It's the just yeah the cadence, the delivery, the way he brings that sympathy, the fact that he got to portray Vader in the era of losing the love of his life. Like he was a part of all basis of all eras of Vader, of Anakin's journey.
Exactly. And I'll always support, like, people always say no. It's like I don't mind that line at all. I'm with you 100%. Right? I think it's like it's very much Vader in his most emotionally raw moment for Vader
Like
/ Anakin.
Greek tragedy vibes.
Big time, big Greek tragedy vibes, and we don't hear much of him after that moment. But like is she? What do you say? Like, is she still alive? Where's Padme?
Is
That
she
kind of thing.
safe? Is she all right?
Yeah, exactly.
If we meme,
Everything in Revenge of the Sith, every line is a meme, which is
it is
a miracle up to itself. We're smarter than that.
Really, you pull every line.
It's brilliant. But yeah, it's just like I love seeing Vader in that most emotional moment. I think James does a fantastic job capturing a different piece of Vader that we haven't seen compared to the original trilogy. I mean, at least towards the end of it, you do. We're saying goodbye to Luke, but even then, it's not James. But yeah, it was great.
I mean, yeah, it's not James like at the very end, but let me look on you with my own eyes. That is the last Vader module speak, and
yeah,
that's maybe like the most impactful line ever spoken from Vader.
It gets me every single time, man. That line, that moment gets me every single time. Jalen and I just love the third act of Return of the Jedi. I love the movie overall, but that third act is tears every single time with my own eyes. And to see the breathing apparatus, the sadness, the score in that moment, it's beautiful. I think James does a fantastic job capturing that moment with Luke so well. So yeah, man, this was such a tragic passing. But yeah, he had such a big impact on Star Wars, and I think we should just get into some of our favorite Vader moments. Unless you had something else you wanted to say.
No, yeah, let's do it.
But yeah, I think I want to follow up exactly with what you said about Return of the Jedi, because one of my favorite not underrated because everything Star Wars is pretty well known at this point. But before him and Luke go to the Death Star on Death Star 2, just that short moment when they're on the ledge on the in Endor, and he takes a look at Luke's lightsaber, and then Luke's beginning the trying to convince Vader that there's still light in him, and Vader's trying his hardest to kind of deny it or whatever. It's beautiful writing.
It's really good, especially because you hear the interviews that James does about when he was being cast, what George was looking for, and he wanted to approach it like a certain base, having that menacing voice, but also not being very emotive because he's supposed to be a bit more robotic in a lot of his scenes, and he's very calculated and quiet and determined. But then whenever it is showcasing of emotion through Vader, it's always very impactful. It's always the best. And that scene especially is great. When Luke is crying, he brings up the idea, Anakin. He's like, that name no longer has any meaning for me. I love it.
It's so good, and that's the power of a great voice actor when you hear it and the character is saying something, but you obviously know internally, like it might not be exactly the case. Like that name no longer has any meaning to me. Narrator, like he's lying.
And then even like I think my favorite part of that scene is like when it's a little bit later, like just before it ends, you hear the somberness. He's like, "It's too late for me, son." Like,
It's so good. Yeah, it's too late. And now I just want to rewatch Return of the Jedi again. Go
yeah,
watch our Return of the Jedi commentary. That was a fun one.
or anyone.
Or any of our Star Wars. When did we last do those movies? Was that like
I think
3 years
that
ago?
was start of 2022.
Were we that late? 2022?
I
Wow.
think so.
Okay. But yeah, that moment always like sticks out to me in Return of the Jedi. It's before the iconic like throne room sequence, post all the Vader and Palpatine stuff throughout the movie, but it's just like Vader and Luke without the audience of Palpatine. And it's just a very raw and emotional father-son moment before they get to their iconic duel on the Death Star 2. It's a quiet moment. I think James Earl Jones, because we all know James and his Vader voice is just so good in the authoritative, like dark, commanding moments. But this one is like a quiet, somber moment, and I think he does equally as well as other moments in that scene. It's a fantastic episode or fantastic sequence, and I love it so much.
Truly. What's another good one? As if I couldn't say all of them. I mean, we meme on this channel all the time, like all like the the sound, the external sounds that Vader makes. Oh, wow!
Wow!
He gets it. Yeah, like the idea that not just the fucking like the line delivery, but like James is in the booth and he's got to like do the fucking like you see, we see those clips of like Hugh Jackman like doing the fucking fight sounds. Like, James is just like got like a broomstick and he's like, wow.
Yeah, like I can just hear James in the studio for Empire. It's like, oof, oh, oof. It's like what is George directing here? What is he saying to James in that moment? That's what I really want.
Dude, I would love for a story to come out where like, yeah, we were recording in the booth and James like slipped on a piece of paper that he dropped and went, oh, and we used it. It's just so good. Anything the man utters is genius.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's so funny. I think that's the beauty of it. Like we're talking about, like James isn't just like, hey, I'm just this commanding, like threatening voice because I'm James Earl Jones. Like, no, he's in a lot of other projects. He's very loving, which makes his character of James Earl, or of Darth Vader, obviously, his most iconic role, so different from his nearly every other role. There's this one movie, I forget what it's called now, but like Martin Lawrence shared it on Twitter. It's like this, it's black movie with Martin Lawrence plays the son of James Earl Jones. It wasn't that great. I forget what its name it was, but I used to watch it all the time growing up. And James Earl Jones played like this commanding but loving father. And him and Martin Lawrence have a great back and forth at the end of the movie. I'll always remember that as well. Like people were tweeting about that as well when the day he passed.
I was seeing a clip like that go around too. I feel like it might be different though. I think it was a stage play and it was for Fences.
Oh yeah, I saw that one as well too, because people were seeing the difference between Denzel Washington in Fences versus James Earl Jones, and I saw that too. What
to play that role.
It's insane. And, I'm watching the Denzel one and I'm like, okay, because I never saw the Denzel play version. I just watched the movie Fences.
Was he in the play?
Yeah. Denzel played it in the play.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Which is funny because, like, yeah, you see Denzel talking to the guy on stage. And it's very weird because, just a short tangent, whatever. When you watch Fences, and there's the iconic monologue where Denzel is talking with his son. He's like, "I don't gotta love you." It's like this kind of stuff where it's like it's slightly funny, but it's also like Denzel is not the best dad. The movie is definitely like portraying that. But when you get to the play, like in theaters, you just take it in. In theater, when he's saying this exact same thing, the audience is laughing like every 5 seconds, and I'm sitting here like it's a very funny moment, but it's like, oh, like this is like I
It
don't
feels
gotta love
raw,
you.
man. I don't know
Yeah,
if I'm
right.
laughing.
Yeah, I don't go to work from 9 to 5 because I love you. It's like it's a very weird, obviously toxic masculinity moment for Denzel's character in Fences,
And
and
yet, in
that's
the
the whole
same,
purpose.
and yet in the same sense, I could like watch that scene and like this just seems like a roundabout way of saying I love you.
Exactly. There's so many layers, and that's why Denzel was so close to winning that Oscar. Um, but then full circle here, going with James Earl Jones's adaptation of that same character in Fences, and it's very different. Less laughs and more just like how do I say? It's more down to earth and like amicable. It's kind of hard to say. Like Denzel plays with such like Denzel charm, but ferociousness, and James Earl Jones has the similar authority, but also very loving. I just think that's how James Earl Jones is so brilliant at it. Whatever kind of character, he can play a variety of different emotions and different octaves in one scene. It's so good. So if people have not seen it, go look up James Earl Jones's version of Fences. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
A really great scene, I think, is, I mean, the beginning of the confrontation on Bespin in Empire, when like the lights are coming on.
Is this is this is like best moment, arguably? Like,
Maybe I think it's probably like the best atmosphere Vader's ever had because it's just like the Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you're not a Jedi yet.
and yeah, the way it's directed, the way Irvin Kershner like pans up to, but you are not a Jedi yet.
And he's still silhouetted even though all the lights are on.
Yeah, it's just like this, the epitome of like the Dark Lord going against Luke. It's people are sharing that, of course, all over Twitter as well on this past week, and I'm like, oh man, just like I've seen this freaking clip over 1,000 times, but I still get chills hearing it, like full audio, full blast. I'm like, oh man, let me go watch Empire all over again because this scene is just it's remarkable, and it's one of the main reasons why Empire was my favorite movie for a long time, because I would just rewatch that entire sequence over and over and over again. And yeah, we make fun of the ooh ah ooh
Oh, wow.
wah, which is great. James Earl Jones is fucking hilarious, and what a great person. And that was one of the things I didn't really expect. Like growing up, you hear James in Star Wars, and you don't really think of him as like this super funny dude. But like I said earlier, you watch a lot of interviews, like, oh, this guy is very funny. I didn't even know he was in. Great, I never watched this show, Big Bang Theory. I never watched Big Bang Theory in my life.
I did,
but he was
I
in
remember.
that episode.
There's a really funny bit in that episode where because Carrie Fisher's in that episode too.
I saw that going around, yeah.
And I think like they go to like fucking like Ding Dong Ditch House, and she's like, "It's not funny anymore, James." And he's like, "Then why am I laughing?" So silly.
Those are the great parts about James that you don't really see in film in the TV world. But I'm glad he got to do that so people could see that from him. It's so good, so good. I'm like, man, this is why I love him as like the performer, as like the person, even outside of the camera.
The character of Vader as well, like he also like can be unintentionally funny at times.
Oh, big time.
In some of the deliveries, like apology accepted.
Apology accepted, Bonita.
As clumsy as he's stupid.
And that's how good James Earl Jones's Vader was, because you get like the iconic, but you are not a Jedi yet, and just the whole like delivery of like one of the biggest lines in all of Star Wars, like, no, I'm your father. Like it's a crazy crazy reveal delivered by the great James Earl Jones, and its impact is felt because of him. Like, I think he seals the deal for that moment. He seals like the power, the agony from Luke's end, at least. And it's a great moment, and that whole sequence going from like what you mentioned in the Bespin room all the way up till the end of the fight. Like even in the short corridor, I loved the moment where Vader's just like toying with Luke, just toying with him. And again, I think Vader's voice is just so imposing, so dark. Like, this is like the darkest. That's why people always assume like The Empire Strikes Back is the darkest Star Wars movie, but it's mostly because of those last 20 minutes where Vader is toying with Luke, about to kill him. He's like this dark silhouetted shadow. Like I said earlier, he's like this dark lord just toying with Luke, leading up to the reveal. And I think James Earl Jones sells that like menacing presence so fucking well. I adore that moment. That entire last act is just anchored by James.
Another like great instance, whether this was like as intentional or not, just with the greater context of everything. Like, you're watching, and by the end, when he reveals that he's Luke's father, we know Vader's situation now. He's oppressed under the thumb of the Emperor, and it's not the best situation. So like, when you hear him try to offer Luke the idea of like, if we team up together, we can overthrow him, we can rule everything. It's an unfortunate like mindset of like, if I must control everything so that I cannot be controlled again.
Yeah.
But also you hear like there's almost a hint of desperation of like, I want to protect my son from what happened to me. I can help him. We can be together. Like, I can, at the same time, like, I can be with family again. Everything that I've lost, everyone I've lost, Obi-Wan, Padme, everybody. But Luke's here. This is my son, and we could have a better future. Like, things could be good again, maybe.
And that goes into the beauty of Star Wars. Like, when you first watch that scene, you're like, oh my God, like, what kind of declaration, what kind of proposition offer is this for Luke? Like, this guy is just a menace. And you can totally agree with Luke in terms of just like, I'm just going to fall off here. But that scene, like you just mentioned, has so much layers to it. That's the beauty of Star Wars, where the more movies you watch, the more TV shows, books, comics you watch, you can layer on a ton of meaning into that scene. And you're 100% right in terms of like Vader. The more you go up, the more you sense, and you can even hear. And this came out in 1980, prior to all the other ancillary material, but still, you can still hear hints of desperation, which is kind of shocking, given, like I just mentioned, all that darkness and that menacing aura that he's been exuding for 2 movies now, in A New Hope and then the Empire Strikes Back. But then you hear a hint of desperation. When you get the reveal that he is Luke's father, you're kind of shook by it, but you hear his desperation. You hear that like that need to be with Luke. And yes, it's behind like dark intention. We can rule the galaxy together. Luke's never going to do that. But you do get that hint of that, the tinge, a glimpse of sadness in such an imposing figure that was, again, sold very well.
And I have like no doubt in my mind that James is a very incredible actor, that he would understand to like there's a switch up in like a performance when you get new information, right? Like, you do all of New Hope, and basically the entire time just Vader is he's a cold, calculated person. So like, you can play that like from start to finish that way, and it all works, and it's concrete, it works. But then when you get introduced the idea that, oh wait, he has family, like he has a child, like, and here he is in front of him. How does this change the character? Like, it's all great effects when you're delivering these lines, especially when like your sole job in this line is purely from how your voice comes through. Like, you're not focusing on the facial acting or anything. It's just this is, you're putting everything into this one bit. What's going to come out if you know all of this?
Exactly. I do wonder, like, how we can assume James knew about the reveal prior to filming that final scene? Or I don't know, maybe if it was a shock on set. He comes in that day and it's like, oh wow, okay, I'm Luke's father. But I assume he knew before the reveal, unlike
I,
other actors in the movie.
I think it came down to just it was George Irvin and Mark and James, like, because it had to be James because he had to speak the line, right? Because in the script it was different. It was Obi-Wan killed your father, which was protect from leaks, which I apparently did leak even in the 80s. God damn it!
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that script bit, right? Which good. Good on them for knowing to do that. But yeah, like I had seen, like, I think it might be in the Empire Dreams documentary where he was like going over the idea of like how that all went down when he got like the real script version. I'm always bummed whenever I'm watching docs and making ofs for like these trilogies, because it's always like they'll tune into James for like 2 minutes. It's like, I got to the people on screen. It was like, man, the set was hot. And it was like, okay, but what, James, come back.
Yeah, go back to James. You love James. Exactly.
What is the sound booth like? Because then I'll see like this is great. I watched like the episode 2 Yoda featurette, right? And I see Frank Oz in the booth delivering lines and shit. And he's like right next to George. And I'm like, this is great. This is rolling for 3 minutes. It's just ADR, and I love it.
Yeah, we need more James. I'm forever bummed that I never got to see him once I started finally going to Star Wars Celebration. I never got a chance to see him.
Did he ever go?
Yeah, good point. I don't even know if he actually ever went, but he had to have gone in the past, right? Like before we actually started going. Maybe he did.
Maybe one. I don't know. Maybe when they were like still numbering them.
So maybe because I always wanted to meet the guy. But yeah, you're totally right. Like I would have loved to see and hear more from him and more documentaries about Star Wars. But yeah, again, I think he sells that, like what you said, that desperation, the hint of like, hey, we can be a family again to Luke. It's one of the more layered Star Wars moments, and it gave rise to when people think of like villainous offers. That's the one. And it's all because of James, where you can hear a lot of like darkness, dark intentions, but also tinges of sadness. Again, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that moment when James is uttering those lines for the first time in studio, because holy shit, that must have been captivating to listen to.
But also, I think like every bit on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi is peak, man. Like all the dialogue that Vader has, the cat and mouse game, like sneaking through the shadows while Luke's hiding. That's just so sister.
Yeah, you took the word right out of my mouth. Like Jalen and I always, we always utter the line, "Oh, sister." Like it's so weird, but it's so good. Yeah.
It's so good. That, or I always like laugh too. He's like, I sense the conflict in you. He's like, there is no conflict, which like I was in my brain. Vader's probably just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, please, not
right
in front
there.
of my, not in front of my master, Luke. What are you doing? Now I gotta kill you.
Nuh-uh.
But you're 100% right. Like I mentioned earlier, my favorite moment is when before throwing the Death Star, but that gave rise to seeing a different kind of Vader. In Empire Strikes Back, Vader is very commanding, but at the very end, like we mentioned, he has like this darkness, but an emotional side, especially even as Luke's leaving. He's like, Father. And then you just see the Vader. You can understand Vader listening in and understanding like his connection to Luke in this moment. And that connects to Return of the Jedi, where we finally see them connect before Endor or on Endor. But then once they get to the Death Star, we're seeing a different kind of Vader. And it's so cool how we can just, through voices, through noise alone, through audio alone, you can understand like, oh, this Vader fighting Luke is a different Vader that was fighting Luke in Empire. Like there's something holding him back, even though he's being like, he's teasing him, talking about his sister, all this kind of stuff. I'm gonna turn her to the dark side, right? But at the same time, it's like, are you really? Like it is such a great tug and pull moment, and again, it's sold completely well here by James, where you could understand him toying with Luke, trying his best to remain on top, but also like connect with his son while your boss is watching. It's very awkward. It's very crazy. It's very emotional, and I love every second of it.
Yeah, I think Return of the Jedi might be my favorite Vader flick. Like honestly, I always love like the opening, the very opening when he boards the Death Star.
Good point. Yeah,
he's like, "May dispense with the pleasantries, putting you back on schedule."
Yeah, it's great, and what's the Vader score, or not the Vader score? What's the score on the Death Star 2 where it's Vader versus Luke? And that part in general is just a brilliant score, brilliant voice acting. When Luke starts wailing on Vader, we as an audience are like, we're shook by it. And I think given the intentional discrepancy between Vader and Empire and Return of the Jedi, when Luke is wailing on Vader, not a lot of people are just like, yeah, go Luke. It's like, we're like, whoa, Luke. And seeing vulnerable Vader, this imposing figure, immediately you sit back and you're just like, oh, this is different. This isn't like good for Luke. Yeah. Like, I shouldn't be feeling like Luke is victorious here. Which makes it all the better when Luke throws away his lightsaber in that moment.
I mean, there's so much buildup. Like the fact that they keep like sowing the seeds that Luke is trying to save this person, and you can see like Vader's getting like a bit softer in moments, and then when like the coin flips, different sides between the two of them, and Vader's like not only like backing up a bunch, but like then when Luke literally gets the upper hand, where Vader's fucking falling down and shit, like he can't hold his own, he falls to the ground before he even gets sliced. He's like, "Oh fuck!" And it's all Luke is just wailing, and you're just like, "Oh wait, no, time out, stop."
yeah. Even as an audience, you're like, "Whoa, like Luke, this is a lot. And I think like, that's the
stop. Fuck. I always remember whenever I like reenacted that, like I did like the fucking like hit count and swipe it away to slice the hair.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the best, or one of the most reenacted moments I too, like when I was a child, between like Anakin versus Kenobi, of course, obviously on Mustafar, like people reenact that fight all the time. Oh, yeah. Back to like this, even the spinning lightsaber. Yeah, the unnecessary spinning all the time. But yeah, I'm with you, dude. I 1000% was like reenacting Luke versus Vader when I was a kid. And yeah, I think that's props to the writing, where you're following Luke, and if Luke is able to sense this softer, more emotional side of Vader, or at least try and get Vader to realize, like, hey, I'm your son. There is still hope in you. That's going to stick with the audience up until that final moment where Luke is wailing on him. That's sticking in our heads. And I think you can just hear like the desperation. There's no more, ooh, ah, like, even that would have been very funny if you'd heard Vader say that in the moment. Like, fuck, damn it, Luke. What are you, wait, hold up, Luke, shit, that'd been very funny. But yeah, it was just still a great moment, and still one of my all-time favorite moments. Even though it is Vader at his most vulnerable, it's still a fantastic moment. And Vader, that switch turning on and being able to kill Palpatine, Sidious in that
pain
moment.
Also, like when Luke cuts off his hand, he's like, Again, we laugh, but like honestly, it's like, oh shit.
Exactly. Like, oh, this dark entity feels pain. Like, what's going on here?
Is there any better symbolism you've ever seen than when Luke looks at the wires coming out of the cut off hand, looking at his own?
Peak. Like, I think that was, thinking back, that was also one of the more, like, obviously in Empire Strikes Back, seeing Luke go through Yoda's cave. And I was like forever confused by that moment. Even when I was a kid, I was like, what does this even mean? Yeah. But Empire started it But I think Return of the Jedi also connected with it in terms of like digging into deeper moments with Star Wars. And when like you said, when Luke looks at his hand, looks at Vader's hand, is that moment when, even though, and that's the beauty of Star Wars, as George always mentions, whether you're 12, whatever, how old you are, it's for kids. But thanks to Star Wars, you're able to think about media differently and more complex. And I think that moment when Luke's looking at his hand, looking at Vader's hand, is one of the more shining moments of when you can actually dig deep into a moment. Because otherwise, you can easily just be like, oh, that's a very cool, interesting showcase there for Luke. But like, growing up, you can be like, okay, this is a deeper, more complex moment for Luke and Vader in that moment.
I'm sure even like, as like fuck yeah it is to watch lightsabers go, I'm sure when like, kids watch it, I'm pretty sure I was watching Return of the Jedi, and you're like, you're seeing the fucking Ewoks own the Empire, and it's like, oh shit, it's funny ways, but also like, hey, it's cool. Yeah, we're winning, it's fun times, woo, wacky hijinks. And then you get to something like that where he's like fucking like looking at his own hand, you're like, fucking this shit's serious.
Yeah, this is deep, and it's why I connected with Star Wars so much. Star Wars is much more than just like a cool, action adventure franchise, which it is. It's cool, it's funny, it's weird as hell. But that moment with a lot of the moments with Vader, when it gets serious and dark, but oddly complex, I think that's when you can like really, it really sticks with you. Like the reason why the throne room sequence is so special is because it has so many layers to it. What Vader is fighting against and fighting for, like internally, throughout that entire sequence, like we always look back at Anakin Duel of the Fates, or Qui-Gon's fighting for like Anakin's fate. But in Return of the Jedi, you have Vader fighting internally for what he should do. His own fate is decided by Anakin in that moment. It's really different when nobody really else is in control. It's all on Vader to save his son. And I think it's just such a special moment where his fate is in his own hands. Well, one hand, like before I got cut off by Luke.
I think it really says something when I was younger. Like I turned on Empire Strikes Back, and it's funny because for whatever reason I was like, all right, I'm skipping the Hoth battle. Like, let's get to Yoda, man. I want to hear him drop some knowledge. But then also get to the end, and I know exactly, like, I know the fucking film to a T. So like when the fucking floor opens and Luke's coming up into the dark room, I'm like, so cool. I'm locking in. I'm like, here I go. Here we go. The music's gone. The atmosphere is going. The fucking steam.
That's funny because when it came to Empire, I was different. I love the Hoth stuff, like the Han Leia back and forth, or I'll see you in hell.
It's great. Yeah, I love it.
It's great, but I would always like kind of fast forward the Endor stuff, or not, the Dagobah stuff. I was different when I was a kid. I was like kind of, even oddly enough, in the Lego Star Wars moments, like I hated the Luke Dagobah levels. They were never fun for me.
Little Week is just like, all right, fucking open some rocks and build some more rocks to move.
So boring. But then, of course, I loved fighting the fake Vader or whatever. They made a small boss battle out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
even as a kid, hard fall into a new location.
You're right. And even as a kid, like Luke entering the Dagobah cave was like a big moment for me. But that was like the only interesting part for me. But now, like as an adult, I love the Dagobah, like do or do not, all that kind of lifting up the whatever, the X-Wing. Like those are always now impactful for me.
Let me tell you the biggest fucking cheat I ever did is when you play Revenge of the Sith in Lego Star Wars original games, you play Revenge of the Sith, but when you do the Anakin versus Obi-Wan mission where it's like fucking 20 hearts, you can still do that fucking player co-op shit where you can like move from one character to the other, because they always let you play as two characters in each level.
Oh yeah.
But all that's there is Anakin and Obi-Wan, whom you have to fight one of them. And it's so fucking funny. You can literally like fucking like wail on the other dude and just like wail, and then you can switch to the other dude, and the heart count consist. So you just strike him once. Like you just let the person hit you, get your health down, switch over, bop, done.
Like you can switch over to the villain Anakin in that level.
Yeah, you can play as either Anakin or Obi-Wan. Probably presuming if you were playing with somebody else, you'd be like, oh fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
But when you're just one player, it's like, should I be allowed?
I forgot about that. I think I always, for some reason, I remembered like you could switch between Obi-Wan and R2. Because wasn't R2 available in that level as well? Maybe at the beginning. But I think you're right when it comes to the fight.
Because like at a certain, I think because primarily the whole level is Anakin versus Obi-Wan, so like they have you like run through the level because they'll be like lava is coming, like run away from it as it's coming towards you on the screen. You're running down, you're like avoiding pit traps.
Yeah,
like
but yeah, but I'm with you. That level in general is just I played the hell out of that level, like rinse and repeat. Waiting for the lava to come and then finding like I'd always like toy around with the level design all the time. That was so much fun. Still baffling that we have Lego Skywalker Saga, whatever, the complete saga, all whatever movies that came out last year, and no like co-op. Crazy to me. Crazy.
I feel like as soon as the Lego games started doing a thing where like you two would like start to like run away, but then like the screen would split when you got too far. I was like, all right.
Yeah. I remember that shit. It happened to me all the time because I played with some friends, the Harry Potter Lego Harry Potter. And you'll be all the way down like diagonally or whatever. I'll be all the way at the beginning of the map and the weird mirror thing. I'm like, they didn't really they should have really fixed this.
Back in my day, you had one motherfucker running in another direction and it was dragging me, and I was like, let me go. I need the brick. I need the min kit up here. Fuck.
The min kit. I got nostalgic because I really wanted to play some of like the Lego Star Wars games again. But because I was like, did I platinum some of those games? Because I think I platinumed it on like 3 different consoles. Like I think 100%ed it on 3 different consoles.
I don't think I've ever platinumed them, but I was always like, let me get all the true Jedis.
Which was easy after you got like the cheat code and stuff like that. That was fun.
Oh yeah, once you got the power up that was like fucking stud magnet and the times. Oh my god.
Easy. Like you enter a level, ching, true Jedi. They just exit it out.
So rich that every time an enemy fucked you up, like just blue studs every time.
Yeah. It was brilliant. We should really do some Lego Star Wars stuff. I do wonder if you're still able to play like the old ones, if those are still co-op. They have to be. But either way,
it might still be like PS2 or something.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, going to some other Vader moments outside of the movies. Let's just talk about it now with the animation. Let's go into it here. Rebels. And the fact that Vader, the fact that James Earl Jones came back as Vader in Rebels, I didn't expect this to be James when I first watched this. Like, what? Season 2 was, or he was at the end of season 1, but he actually was talking in the beginning of season 2, which was just crazy. I didn't expect James to come back, but seeing him on the credits, I'm like, oh, wow, they got him back. That's incredible. And, people should go watch our commentary over some of our favorite Rebels episodes. Yeah. Why did we do that, by the way? We did a favorite. Was that for Ahsoka?
That was, it was for Ahsoka.
That was for Ahsoka. But either way, we did some of our favorite Ahsoka moments. And we did like the season 2 premiere. I think we did.
For sure. We definitely did the premieres. But I don't know if we did the premiere season 4. I don't think we had to.
Yeah, no. But season 2, when Vader comes and Ezra's like, Ezra's like, Kanan, what's Vader doing? No.
No, that shit went hard.
It goes so hard. Ezra's like, Kanan, I feel cold. Yeah, I was like, oh shit.
And he's like in the distance. And even Kane's like, oh, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
We gotta get the hell out of here. It's just one of the coldest. I remember watching that live on the Disney stupid ass app or whatever.
Disney XD.
Disney XD. Like the rollout for Rebels was shit, garbage, oof. But either way, it's one of my favorite products of Star Wars of all time.
He's fighting with one hand the whole time.
Yeah, Vader's just fighting with one hand, just chilling. Ezra has like he still has his gun lightsaber at that time. I think it doesn't it break in that fight or whatever.
I think he destroys it there.
He destroys it there. He's like, "This is a nice toy. What the hell are you doing? Get out of this! You brought a toy to a real fight. Get out of here!"
Pushing Ezra's own blade toward his neck, like Jesus Christ.
That's so cool. And it reminds me of like when Vader does it to Cal at the end of Fallen Order, where Cal's on the floor and he's like, trying to like, because Vader's like using his own lightsaber against Cal in the Inquisitorius.
I think Lucasfilm is using Vader as a crutch in the games. He's popping up. He's in every game.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, high chance he'll be in the next Jedi game after Jedi Survivor, whatever it's called. Does Cal die to Vader? Does Vader kill Cal? Hopefully not.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Can I get him in live action?
Yeah,
Cal already him.
Yeah, Cal needs to show up in some comics or books or live action. I would love that. But yeah, dude, in the season 2 premiere, when the AT whatever ATST whatever falls on Vader, you get another one of the big most memorable Vader shots of all time. Now, just lifting it up with one hand, fire all around him, baller.
But also, like, he lifts it, and then he's like stone cold still silhouette, and he's done. It just drops right now. Doesn't flinch.
Doesn't flinch. It's so cool.
Oh.
So cool. It's so great.
The Rebels crew are firing at him. He fucking reflects a ball back at Sabine's face.
God, she's like,
oh my god! Thank God you had the helmet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She didn't have a helmet. That's an instant like headshot. She's done.
Oh.
It's wild. It's wild. But yeah, I love that Vader moment. James is so like succinct in that moment. You feel his power. I think this is peak, like you mentioned, like A New Hope Vader, where Vader is just like a military imposing presence, where he just means business. And the Rebels came across him at the wrong time. But the interesting thing about Vader in season 2 of Rebels is that he's also, at the same time as Ahsoka, getting the knowledge that his Padawan's alive. And Ahsoka's getting the knowledge that Vader is alive. And the way they play that across season 2 is incredible. The episode where Ahsoka realizes that Vader's still alive, Vader realizes that Ahsoka's still alive, and the different meanings to all of that. It's just so special to me. One of my favorite Filoni moments is Vader just getting to Twilight of the Apprentice now. Filoni realizing that like Ahsoka can't be the one to change Vader. So the way you got to play Vader at this moment is somebody who's incapable of being redeemed. Ahsoka is not going to be the one to help redeem Vader. So the Vader she's fighting against is pure darkness and is ready to kill. This isn't like Return of the Jedi Vader where he's like softer a little bit because he sees his Padawan. No, this Vader is dark.
Every bit of his dialogue, like even the one bit, the one iota that he speaks on the memory of Anakin, just like he was weak, I killed him. Now where are you hiding the other Jedi? Like he's just back to business. He doesn't care about the history at all.
Not at all. It's so heartbreaking. And speaking of Vader, we get one of the best shots of Vader ever again when he's coming down on the
on his own ship. Are you autopiloting that motherfucker? Like, are you holding the wheel with your mind?
I've always wondered that. Nobody ever cares.
It
doesn't matter.
In there.
Yeah. He has like a black version of R2. What do they call it? Whatever. Just like the Imperial version of an R2 droid. Just like piloting it for him.
Almost like the Conehead ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just what if it just crashed? Like you ruined the entrance. What are you doing?
Oh, wow.
Wow. Ezra, get over here. It's so good. Like you see the light of whatever whatever planet they're on.
Yeah.
You see the light coming down from above from the sky, Vader coming down, cape billowing in the wind, the score, the orchestral score. Oh my fucking god! Like Twilight of the Apprentice is a thing of beauty. One of the
I think
best
that's the scene. That's
episodes
the
ever.
scene where he breaks Ezra's saber.
Probably, maybe. Does Ezra have the blue saber the entire season 2? Still? I guess
That
he
one,
does.
yeah, he does, and then it breaks it there, and then he gets
You're right. You're right. Yeah,
gets the saber in
definitely.
3.
Yeah, he gets the green saber in 3. Yeah, man. Just like that's the first time. I know Kenobi did it as well, but that's the first time you get the half mask
Yeah,
duality mixing
that half. Oh,
mixing James and Hayden. Holy shit! Like
oh,
whoever thought it. I mean, I guess whoever thought it. Filoni.
that
Maybe he
was
did. I don't know.
Matt Lanter.
Matt Lanter. It was just you're right, not Hayden. It was
That's later.
just that's later, yeah. That's just genius,
Mhm.
pure genius, and it's emotional for the audience who watched at that point 6 seasons of the Clone Wars, and then mixing that with the knowledge that we have of Vader. It's so emotionally taxing, and you're just like, oh shit. And again, like you hear James, then you hear Matt Lanter, and you're just like, these two entities of Anakin coming into one peak Vader moment.
Yeah.
Now you will die. It's like, oh my god, it's sick. It's great. And then, realizing in season 4 of Rebels that like Vader would have killed Ahsoka if it wasn't for Ezra. Like Vader was about to strike the killing blow against his own Padawan. That's fucked up. That's dark as hell, but it makes sense. So I love it either way. Like the Twilight of the Apprentice Vader is just one of my all-time favorite instances of seeing him ever.
Absolutely.
So great. But yeah, I think that's about it. He also appears at the end of Clone Wars season 7, but I don't think he has any lines.
No lines.
No lines, right? Yeah. But still a cool moment. It's still one of my favorite gifs of just Vader picking up a Clone Wars helmet. Really cool moment.
I cannot remember in Tales of the Empire if Vader has any lines there either. Does he?
Oh wow, good point. The one that came out this year?
Yeah, with the Barris episodes.
Yeah. How was that this year? This year fucking flew by. Holy shit.
Was it? I mean, I thought Ahsoka was this year. Apparently it's a year ago.
Yeah, Ahsoka was definitely last year. Shit. I think he doesn't have any lines. But it's a cool moment. Barris saying hi to Vader. She's like, hey, what's up? No, I'm kidding.
I think it's just funny off of the context of the fucking Anakin owning her in the episode.
That's one of my favorite Anakin moments. Anakin just toys with Barris when he finds out who it is. He just comes in there. It's like, so he's pissed.
Which is rightfully because it's Ahsoka. It's like, you fucked with my family.
It's great. It's one of my favorite Anakin moments where it's like, because Anakin's a tall guy. He just walks into Barris's small ass room, and it's game on. It's great. It's great.
Fairly tall, all before he's even Vader, where he gets like a lift with the longer legs.
Yeah, it gets an extra 3 inches.
Yeah.
So it's great. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'm always, gonna miss James Earl Jones. One of the most impressionable, incredible, impactful, not only like voice actors, just actors in general. He was an incredible performer across the board, incredible person. And again, that's the big thing that I liked, that I at least got to know growing up. Because, when you're a kid, you're just watching him in the TV show or a movie or whatever. But growing up, you see him in a lot more things. You see a lot more interviews and people talking about him, like the Star Wars family talking about the impact that James had growing up on them. And you really get to get a good picture of who James is as a person. And I would have to agree with him. He was an incredible person, and he will be missed.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So that's about it. This time I don't have to ask where my ad is. It's been there the whole time. I'm so
This
happy.
isn't a commentary, dude.
Good point.
You
Good
know
point.
how the game works.
You know,
The
and
MCU quote for you.
was that an MCU quote? What is that?
It's Winter Soldier.
Wow. I feel like, if I did a tally of the number of movies per like quote or whatever, I think Winter Soldier is the most for Nathan. I think.
We're into the 24-hour challenge, and I'm gonna the challenge will be in a fluid conversation, pull one quote from every MCU entry, and I'll do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, this was great. This was fun. It was very sad passing for the Star Wars family. But I do love how everybody came together. Mark had some great words on social media. Kathleen Kennedy did as well on StarWars.com. George as well, of course. So people have not listened or read those articles. Look them up. They're very sweet and they're very endearing for who people thought of for what people thought of James. So yeah, find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. Before going on here, I was talking about the Emmys. The Emmys are going on right now. Still probably got like an hour left of the Emmys. No, we don't. We have 15 minutes left of the Emmys. See, I'm always very much on the awards conversation. But yeah, talking about the Emmys, Star Wars, Marvel. Don't forget to renew the Acolyte, save the Acolyte. Watch our Acolyte episode going over some of the ways you can help renew the Acolyte as well, if you're a fan of that show, as you should be. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and you can follow me at _TimeBlazer, making a show called Time Blazer with co-star and creative consultant Evan Harris.
Playing the best character, Ben.
I mean, I can't deny the influence of our primary antagonist, probably Vader.
Great point. Very true.
Especially of a altered voice behind a mask. It's very, I wouldn't say on the nose, but it's inspired.
So are you spoiling by saying that character is the father of our main character?
Not a chance. No relation. Stop it.
Yeah.
I don't even want to see that shit on AO3. Don't do nothing. I have one rule.
Gonna delete my AO3 password right now.
What about you're the creative consultant?
I'm just creating a whole other story on AO3.
I would like to see it. I would stay up all night reading that. I really would. If I knew there was Time Blazer AO3, I would be like, I'm not leaving until I read it all. And I'll cherry pick what I like. But yeah, that being said, if you enjoyed this, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you miss all future Hyperspace Hype episodes, all things Star Wars. That being said, hope you have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.